All right, you guys. So we are back. Now that we have our operating system all set up, you can see down here that we have Windows Server 2022 Standard Edition that is currently installed. The only thing I've done so far is installed Chrome. We've done that because of a reason that I will share later. There is a piece of the software that Chrome is the only browser that is supported. Granted, you can use it in more than one, but this ensures that you have um, the best experience possible. So, what I have created here is a share folder, and I have my software here. Now, this base version is System Platform 2023 R2 Service Pack 1. And you'll see I have a separate file that is the SP version, System Platform. It's the exact same version, but it has patch 4. Now you'll see the disk type. Now, those of you who are not familiar, and I just like to go over this. I know it seems very simple, but there are two different types of install files available. So you have an ISO, which is basically like a digital disk, like if you were to have like a Windows version on a CD or a floppy disk or something that you were going to insert into your PC or your laptop, you would be able to have the software from there. So this is basically just a virtual version of that. This is just what I'm going to be using today, but it also comes in a zip file as well. So whichever one you choose is completely up to you. Now, since this is my VM, I have downloaded and unblocked these on my personal machine, but I'm going to show you guys how to double check that before. System Platform requires that from the time that you download the software from the AVEVA site, you have to go in to the machine you download it to and unblock the files. And then if you need to transfer it, you need to unblock it as well. So we're going to see if those options are available here. So right here, you can go down to properties, and all I did is right click, and you can go to properties, and it's not available here because it's already been unblocked, but sometimes that option shows. So this is the general tab. You would go down to attributes, and where you see read only or hidden, there will be an option down here that says to unblock. And so we're just going to verify that both of these files are unblocked. So this file is unblocked as well. Now what I'm going to do is right click, and you see this option here. This is going to be to mount it. Now we are going to go ahead and mount this disk. It says we can't verify this file. Do you want to open this file? Yes. We're going to go ahead and open. Let me see what's going on. Bear with me just a moment. All right, so we're back. And the only thing I've done so far is bring these files over locally to my machine. So this is where they were. They were in a shared folder, and I brought them locally. So I've already double checked to make sure that they're unblocked. And now what we're going to do is see if they're going to be able to mount. Prior to mounting, what I want to do is explain why there are two files that we're gonna be installing today. So when AVEVA releases a patch, the entire 2023 R2 Service Pack 1 and the patch is not going to be included in that install file. So you can tell the difference in the size, right? So this is just going to be this top file, which lists the 04, is just going to be the file that includes the updates of the patches. Patches have common hot fixes. They have, any updates to the software, if there were bugs, those things are all fixed, not all fixed, but the ones that they chose to address are going to be included into the patch. Now, the base version is the software itself. So usually when you have the year the software was released, as well as the R2 and the service pack, if you get to the service pack, most of the time, since I've been working in the software, if you're safe with grabbing the service pack. So you see what we have here? It's 2023 R2 Service Pack 1. So though it includes the service pack, that lets me know this is going to be the complete software. Now, if I want to add a patch because I think like, hey, what if there were some fixes that went out and I want to go ahead and include those and I want to do it now before we got into production, I'm good to go ahead and do that. So the only reason why we have two files is because this is the core software and this is the addition. All right. So now what we're going to do, we're going to right click and we're going to mount. So you see this E drive that gets started. I want to share something with you. Those of you who are comfortable with this, you can bypass this, it's okay. But you have the option to eject this as well. So let's say you're like, oh, no, I'm actually not in a good place to do this. I need to run into a meeting or something. You can just eject this disk. Yes, it's going to completely close down File Explorer as a whole, but that's fine. You can just go back into wherever you have it listed or placed, and then you're going to be able to remount it again and start the installation from there. So now we're going to go ahead and mount it. And from this point, those of you who have seen this software in the past, this is going to be exactly where you need to be. This is what it looks like when you have unblocked and zipped the zip file. This all looks the same. The only difference is there's just that itty bitty little extra step, right? Now, I'm going to come here to set up. What you want to do is you always want to make sure. Now, I'm logged in as administrator, right? But most times, I want you to get in the habit of always checking to make sure your software is unblocked and then always running your software as administrator, right? So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we're running as administrator and we're going to get prompted a couple of things. If there are necessary prerequisites, it will find that and then we will move forward from there. But up until this point, this is exactly where we need to be, okay? All right, so this is basically saying, hey, the computer you have is running, this is the operating system, and that's fine. It confirms the compatibility, and we're going to go ahead and click next. Now, we have two options. You can install based on the product and then install based on the role selection. We always want to choose, well, most people are always going to choose the product-based selection. So now that we have that, it's the default setting. We're going to go ahead and click next. Now, this software is robust. Remember, or if I haven't already said it, System platform is the umbrella term for all of these products, and all of these products are used. Um, they're used together, right? So they kind of are like a part of a web. Each of these have different functions, and but they all can be used together. You don't have to all use them together. So we're just going to select what we're going to need for what we're working on today, which is going to be the AVEVA InTouch HMI. I'm going to come down. I'm also going to choose the historian. And I'm also going to choose the communication drivers because we definitely need these. And then we're going to choose the AVEVA Enterprise License Manager. Now, as we come up, you will start to feel comfortable with these. I will explain these in just a bit, but InTouch HMI is what we're going to select, the historian, and then again, we need our communication driver pack. The communication driver pack is, as you can see here, is a bundle of the most commonly used communication drivers, right? Also known as OI drivers or OI servers. And this is how we get communication from an external data source, be a PLC, a radio, or something like that. We get that data into one of our communication drivers, and then that data pushes data into our applications, right? So we also have our license manager. The AVEVA Enterprise Licensing Manager is basically how we license the software. It ensures that that you know you have permission to use the software, right? Because though you can have it, you can run it in demo mode. There is a cost to licensing, right? So you want to make sure that you have that license and have it prepared just at about this point here, even though we don't need it until the software is fully installed. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and click next. Oh, actually, I am going to uncheck a couple of these. So no, no, I'm going to go ahead and keep it. Okay, so I'm going to click next. All right, so these you can see here. We didn't check application server, which is also known as our IDE. And those of you who are familiar with application server also can be used interchangeably as far as our Galaxy, right? Now, though we didn't choose that, there are some dependencies that are needed. So you'll see application server, we need that bootstrap, and then so on and so on. So what we want to do next here is go in and customize our installation. We want to go ahead and click next. we're going to leave all of this as it needs to be, right? The most important thing for us to do, so I'm starting off from the top, is to scroll down until I see that communication driver pack. This here is going to say, hey, you're going to be installing each of these. I really only want the one that I want, right? So I'm going to keep that PCS plugin. I'm going to uncheck these, right? I don't need that. The only one that I am going to keep is going to be the, oh, I guess I think I need to have that. And I'm gonna uncheck these. I don't need all Omrons. I'm gonna keep all of these, even the gateway, and I'm gonna get rid of all of those. I'm gonna get rid of this one too. But you can see this is a nice amount of OI drivers that you have available. Now, if you hear terminology that is DA, just know that that is pre 2017 software before the OI drivers moved over to the OI side of things. The OI drivers can handle PLCs with higher firmwares. For DA drivers, they used to only go up to they could only handle PLCs with the firmwares. I believe most of them was up to about maybe 21. And so as firmwares on PLCs got a little bit higher, then some of the releases of the OI servers were released to be able to handle those. So OI is more modern. All right, so we're going to keep all of that the same. The only thing we want to choose, make sure is selected, is going to be the driver that we need, and the driver is going to be the Modicon MBTCP driver. So we're going to go ahead and click next. All right, and you can see that there are various languages you can choose: English, French, German, Japanese, and simplified Chinese. So we're going to keep it in English, and we're going to go ahead and click next. This talks about the licensing. If you want to go through and you want to read all of these pages, go ahead and do so. I myself am not. I'm going to go ahead and click here, and I'm going to agree. Now, this area here, if you are new to System Platform, this may not make sense to you, but those of you who are familiar with System Platform, but you're not familiar with this version, you may have heard of something called the Change of Network Utility. What the Change Network Utility is it allows communication from AVEVA software to AVEVA software. So let's say we had a plant that was down and we come back and communication has stopped. We're not getting any data into our OI servers. We can't see it in our application or anything like that. The next thing we would want to do is run the change network account utility, because that says, hey, you are a part of my family and I have permission to communicate with you. This is also a big utility used when you have something like a GR and you have the GR node is where the IDE is located, or it could be, yeah, it has that. There are engineering nodes that can have the application software installed on that one as well. But from the GR, you deploy objects to various servers or specific nodes. And if your deployment fails, it probably is because this utility needs to be run on that machine, because it's saying, hey, do I have permission to communicate with you? So it is, a part of that node to node communication, node to node, server to server communication for what AVEVA has going on. All right, so what we're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and add in my credentials, and then I'll be right back. All right, so now that I was able to enter my password in correctly, now I can come in and it's going to say, hey, there's a prerequisite for a software that you have selected, and now we need to install SQL Server Express. SQL Server is a free version of the SQL Server database, and the reason why this is prompted, right? This is not going to be required for all of the software that you have installed or that you select to install. If we had just chose the in-touch HMI and licensing and communication driver, this would not have been prompted. This would have completely bypassed. It wouldn't have said, hey, we don't see any requirements that are needed, and it would continue on with the installation. However, we selected the historian because that's a piece that I wanted to be able to show you guys. So now that since we did that, our historian is built off of SQL Server. It is SQL Server at the foundation and hyped up times how whatever in order to make sure that it can, um, work with industrial automation software and handle everything that we need to. So that's just what this is. And for those of you who know that you already use SQL Server, or you have SQL Server installed, what I will say is if this is a new machine and you know that you may suspect that you need to use SQL Server already, we see a lot of issues with people who try to install SQL Server prior to doing this installation, mainly because have they checked the technology matrix to make sure that that version of SQL Server is supported? And even if they have, why go through the necessary um, downloading the software, installing the software, and then possibly experience hiccups because even with the exact version that is supported, sometimes I'm not sure what different people may be doing, but sometimes it still causes an installation error that we have to work through prior to getting the software fully installed. So if you know you're going to need it, allow the software to install its own dependencies. Allow it, it will always install the supported version of SQL for the version of system platform that you are installing. So save yourself some time and some headache and go ahead and allow the AVEVA software to install SQL Server on its own. Now, if you happen to need SQL Server, let's say standard, and that's not the free version because we know Express is the free version of SQL, and you're like, hey, no, we are a massive network. We need to have the paid version of SQL. Still allow it to install this version of SQL Server Express and install over that the version that you need. Okay. And make sure you have verified that through the technology matrix to ensure that your installation of the AVEVA software does not receive any type of hiccups that we have to overcome. So, because of an installation issue of the SQL database. Okay. So I express that a lot because there is a lot of people who are experiencing that. So let's go ahead and click next and move forward with the installation. All right, so now this is going to talk about some of the prerequisites, and it's going to say, hey, we need to go ahead and install these. Are you ready to install? And at this point, we are ready. We've made sure our file is unblocked. We've made sure that we selected all of the pieces of the products within System Platform that we need to install. We know that our dependency, not dependency, we know that it's going to install SQL for us, so we can bypass that. We're in a good place. All right. So let's go ahead and do the installation. All right. Now, not SQL Server, System Platform takes a nice bit of time installing. So I will come back as soon as my installation is done. We will configure our server together, and then we will license our server together. Are you an industrial automation engineer or you're thinking about becoming one? Well, you want to go ahead and join the Industrial Automation Engineers Network. This is going to be a group of engineers that's going to be able to share life experiences. You're going to be able to drop your common questions that you might have about the software, about various things in the industries, maybe even best practices, maybe even some security questions. But it's going to give you a neutral place that's outside of one particular organization so that you don't lose access to these engineers should you ever decide to change your organization or pick up on some contract work. I want you to go ahead and join the Industrial Automation Engineers Network and go ahead and do it now. I'll see you there.